Can we have silence, please? We are about to begin. Okay, let's start. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Aman-Allah! Aman-Allah! Viva the Palestinian people! Viva! Viva the Palestinian people! Viva! Long live Palestine! Long live! Long live Palestine! Long live! Down with apartheid Israel! Down! Down with apartheid Israel! Down! Padsy to the occupation regime! Padsy! Padsy to the occupation regime! Padsy! I greet you all with the universal of peace. My name is Isa Wajuddin, and I will be your MC for tonight. Tonight we have Dr. Mads Gilbert, Chief Mandla Mandela, and a host of a distinguished guest. That means you. It is very sad as a future medical doctor that I get to meet Dr. Gilbert under these sad circumstances. We want to acknowledge Salam Media for hosting Dr. Gilbert, and on behalf of the Durban Organizing Committee, PAO, IMA, CSN, SAMNET, and SABDS, we welcome you. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate your support and commitment to the Palestinian people. We cannot start today's event without recognizing the martyrs of Palestine. I'm going to call upon the senior anchor of Salam Media, Inayat Wadi, who will lead us in prayer for the fallen heroes and injured.
Viva Palestine, viva! Long live Palestine, long live! Long live the resistance, long live! Down with the Zionist state, down! Down with the oppressor, down! Ladies and gentlemen, I greet you with a universal greeting of peace and blessings. And I'd like to begin with invoking a prayer. This prayer, which is called a dua and referred to in Arabic, where we praise the Almighty, we praise our nourisher, we praise our sustainer, we praise our protector, and we pray for peace and harmony. We pray for mercy and compassion. We pray for the oppressed and the defenseless. And I'd like to refer to a prayer that was revealed 1,445 years ago. And it seems as if this prayer was just revealed around October the 8th in Gaza. Because this prayer is so profound. And the prayer talks about oppression. It talks about the oppressed men, women, and children who cry out. And this prayer reads as follows: O our Lord, take us out of the city of oppressive people. Appoint for us from yourself a protector, and appoint for us from yourself a helper. Now, how true can these verses actually be? Because this is the cry of the people of Palestine. And this is the prayer that the people of Gaza, in the darkness, in the state of hunger, in the state of thirst, in the state that they are in under the rubble, these are the prayers that they are reciting and chanting day and night. And it's a very, very short prayer. And you must have heard it on television. And I'm going to read out the Arabic text. It says, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil, ni'mal mawla wa ni'mal nasir. Translated as, He is the best disposer of affairs. And at the end of the day, to all of us, I'd like to request you to say Amen or Amen to this prayer. And it is against this background that we, Salam Media, have actually brought Dr. Mads Gilbert here. And a little later on in the program, we will give you from a Salam Media perspective in terms of what we intended doing, and also at the same time take you through to Dr. Mads Gilbert. But right now, I'd like to hand you back over to the program director. Thank you.
Thank you, Inayat, for that prayer. We say Amen to all your prayers, and we always remember the Palestinian people in our prayers. Without any further delay, I'm going to call upon the Honorable former Minister of Health, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, to address us. Doctor, please take the stage.
Amandla! Long live the struggle of the people of the Palestine. Long live! Down with apartheid Israel, down! Program Director, Dr. Mads Gilbert, our guest, and the organizers, our members of parliament present, Honorable Mandla Mandela and your dear wife, my comrade Sheikh Imam from the NFP, my colleague from the National Executive Committee of the ANC, Comrade Fawzia Peer, the leaders of various community organizations who are here. Thank you very much for this invitation this evening. We are here to welcome Dr. Mads Gilbert. We have followed your work, sir, and we have been very impressed with the fact that you have moved all the way to concentrate on an issue that should be pricking everybody's conscience in this world: the suffering of the people of the Palestine. President Nelson Mandela used to say, the freedom of the South African people is not complete until the people of the Palestine are free. As members of the ANC and as members of the struggle against apartheid, we always knew that our success in fighting apartheid lay in the support we got from peoples of the world who identified with our cause and therefore gave us the strength and the courage to continue the fight against the mighty regime that was feared in the whole continent. It is important for us today to say, no person with a conscience can tolerate the brutality that we are observing in the Palestine, in particular the bombardment of Gaza. It is unacceptable, and we condemn the Israeli Defense Force for the brutality with which they have destroyed lives in hospitals, in residential areas, in the Gaza area. We condemn the balkanization, the creation of the apartheid wall to separate the people of the Palestine. We condemn the arbitrary searches that happen, which is a day-to-day life of the people of the Palestine. The murders, the disappearance, the detention without trial, which is all based on the apartheid supremacist ideology. What is said is that this is being perpetrated right in front of all the big nations of this world, and some of them are giving Israel all the support, despite the brutality that all of us have seen documented. We, the people of South Africa, can identify with the people of the Palestine. We understand their pain. We understand their struggle. Of course, we condemn any form of violence against innocent civilians. But in this case, what is most painful for us is to know that the bombardment has been targeted to hospitals, to residential areas, and of the 11,000 people that have been killed, almost 4,000 of them are children, either directly or indirectly suffering from this war. Those are innocent souls that have been destroyed. And we cannot, in good conscience, just keep quiet and watch. We therefore have, as the African National Congress, called for the ceasefire to allow for humanitarian passage so that people can be assisted to get water, to get food, to get medicine, to get some sort of decency as human beings. We as the ANC have even gone to the extent of saying that some of the diplomats in Israel have to be brought back. We're currently discussing the issue of closing down the embassy, because we're looking for we are looking for something that's going to show our disgust at the level of brutality that we see America supporting, where we see the European Union countries supporting, and we know it's an unjust war of unequal might. Those children, those women died in the hospitals, in their homes, in their flats, buried under the rubble. We know they were not carrying guns. We know that those people also are just victims of a very sad situation. And for us, it's very strange. Yes, we don't want to see war anywhere in the world, and we condemn any form of violence. But in 1 year, in the Ukraine, we've had about 9,000 people dying. There's been a huge uproar in the whole world, calling for the arrest of President Putin, even pressurizing South Africa to arrest Putin on arrival when we know that the war is not conducted in South Africa. But in 6 weeks, 11,000 people have been killed. We're trying to listen to those calls for charges, for investigation by the International Criminal Court of Justice. We're not hearing. We want to hear somebody talk sanctions on Israel in the same way, with the same vigor that we've had in Russia. We're not hearing it. Why would someone who has been responsible for publicly stating that they will continue to bombard and kill innocent people would be spared from this wrath of the world's condemnation? And therefore, when we meet here today, I want to say to you, we must take courage from the fact that people stood up with us many, many thousands of kilometers away across the seas. And the mere statement of saying that we are with you gave us enough courage to continue the fight. And in this case, we understand what arbitrary searcher means, where you just get stopped by virtue of your racial or nationality, the racial classification. You are seen as guilty already before you do anything wrong. You get subjected to searches, you get subjected to arrest. We are saying that must come to an end. There must be peace, there must be a ceasefire in the area of Gaza. And so as the people of South Africa, we are standing in solidarity with the people of the Palestine. And we want to welcome you, sir, and we all look forward to the insights that come from you and all your experience. But we want the people of the Palestine to be assured of the support that we always had during those days of President Yasser Arafat and President Nelson Mandela. The people of South Africa stand with the people of the Palestine. Amandla! Phansi ne-apartheid Israel, phansi! Down with the balkanization of Palestine, down! Down with the murders and the war in the Palestine, down! Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for those powerful words. We are indeed fortunate to live in a country where our leaders are at the forefront against the oppression of the Palestinian people. Before I call upon our next guest, honorable speakers, I understand that this is a burning and passionate Suleiman, who is the national chairperson of the Islamic Medical Association. Dr. Faisal.
I'm not a politician, so I don't have the vigor and the oration of the politician. I'm going to dispense with formal greetings because, as our program director has said, we are short on time, and I'm sure you're here to hear Mads Gilbert and our brother Mandela. So good evening, Sawubona, Dumelang, Namaste, Vanakkam, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome Dr. Mads and of course all the other guests. On behalf of the Islamic Medical Association and the South African Muslim Network, as a medical fraternity, we are in absolute disbelief at the moment. I can't fathom what is going on. It's as if the massacres we are seeing are happening in an alternate universe, because surely it cannot be happening live, this day, this stage, with our levels of sophistication and democracy and attention to human rights. Now, to call what Israel is doing barbaric is actually a misnomer, because even the barbarians of yesteryear would not bomb a population, drive them to a hospital and bomb that hospital and everyone in it. Would not bomb a building, a crash, a school, a church, a mosque, wait for the ambulance to arrive and then take a drone and whack that ambulance and destroy everybody in it and around it. To suggest that Israel has also crossed the bounds of civilized warfare is also a misnomer. That boundary was crossed in 1948 during the Nakba. What did you know, Comrade Zweli mentioned now this unequal war. It's not a war. It has never been a war. It has been the combined military, economic, political, and diplomatic force of the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Britain, and Israel that the Palestinians have had to endure for 75 years. Now, we urge you, I know Dr. Metz will done a lot of what is happening there at the moment, so I'm not going to delve in it. And what's the problem with the doctor's writing is trying to figure out which ones I'm going to do, because I really can't read it anymore. But I don't know about you, but there's two reactions I have at the moment when I watch some of the videos and some of the mainstream media coverage. When you watch BBC and CNN and Sky, I want to puke. I really do. And when you watch the videos that are coming out of Gaza, while they still have some batteries left, while they still have some internet, and clearly we know Israel is going to stop that as soon as it can, I just want to cry. I really do. As a doctor, as a humanist, I mean, I can't fathom it. I really can't. So this then comes to what can we do? And we would like to suggest 5 things to you this evening. One is that you understand that we have to stay the course. This is not going to stop when Gaza is off the headlines, when perhaps the Rafah border opens, perhaps the bombing stops. As I'm sure Dr. Mads will tell you, as a person who's worked there, Israel is only going to 2 things in Gaza: death and destruction. Absolutely nothing but rubble. Even after the tanks move in, they have a bulldozer to make sure that the roads are destroyed. They use white phosphorus. It would not surprise me in the least if we found that Israel is using depleted uranium there as well, so that the land and the soil and the vegetation is poisoned for the rest of our times. So, what are the 5 quick things I can suggest in the 2-3 minutes that I have? The first thing is register to vote. We've got a table outside with some material from the IEC. The events in Cape Town last week, the support of a few political parties, they call it the Moonshine Wolf Pack. The Moonshine Wolf Pack, 5 parties. They have demonstrated their support of genocide by failing not to condemn, but even to keep quiet. They have openly said, we support this. This is no more an exercise of politics. This is genocide, and they have said we support it. So you need to register to vote. I'm not saying give it to the ANC. I'm not saying give anybody right now. I'm saying first get that registration in your hand. The second thing is taken to social media. Now there are 3 narratives, perhaps 4. One of them, I think Dr. Kize sort of mentioned. The one is the anti-Semitic narrative. The second is the victimhood narrative. The third is the Palestinian terrorist narrative. And the fourth is that this is an equal struggle, that they have, this myth, land for a people without land. Those 4 things you need to take to social media to help us debunk. You need to be able to take to social media to put the pressures on the likes of Dr. Mkhize and his ANC and our government before they have meetings with the Jewish Board of Deputies and they have meetings with anybody else and start to change. We need that pressure to be kept up. And of course, we speak about the mainstream media. They're not going to come to our assistance. Forget about it. Forget about the fact that the United States and any of those countries are going to come to assist. We have Arab Zionists now. You and I, staying the course, are going to be able to make a difference. The narrative in the public sphere, Israel image, that it spends so much money creating and developing, has to change in the public eye. Boycotts. We need discipline and we need sustainability in few of the products that we need to choose strategically and boycott. Make an example of 1 or 2 companies. You cannot boycott 50 items and sustain it and expect you're going to make a difference. Clover, South Africa, is a wholly owned Israeli company. The drug company Tiva is a wholly owned Israeli company. Start 2. You can't sustain the others. 2 are not difficult. We'll give you the alternatives as a medical profession. Help to change the narrative, please do. Not in your personal WhatsApp groups and your friends and your sports WhatsApp groups, on the mainstream media. Finally, pray, demonstrate, Dr. Mkhize spoke about how we took strength from the anti-apartheid demonstrations in the 70s and the 80s. The Palestinians need to see you demonstrate that support outside, inside, on social media, on the streets, and have discipline. There's a long road ahead here. This is not going to be an easy task. And of course, finally, and I'm sure we'll speak to it later on, for all of us to be going there, inshallah, God willing, when we're able to. So, they're not difficult, so I'll just recap them. Register to vote. To associate this money in this country, to collect money, to remit money to Palestine, you'll have the same problems you've seen in Europe, United States. Designated a terrorist organization, you cannot send funds to them. It's incumbent on you to make sure that a Zionist and a controlled
Thank you, Dr. Faisal, for that brief but certainly impactful words. Ladies and gentlemen, for those standing at the back, there are still seats available. Our volunteers will assist you if you need a seat. Our next speaker needs no introduction. He continues to honor his grandfather's legacy. We remember the iconic statement of Mr. Nelson Mandela: "Our freedom is not complete without the freedom of the Palestinians." Without any further delay, comrades, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Chief Mandla Mandela.
موطني الجلال والجمال والسناء والبهاء في رباك في رباك والحياة
It's kind of quiet here this evening. So let's see if we can warm up this place. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! No, comrades. I know Durbanites can do better than this. We want you, our comrades in Gaza, our brothers and sisters, to hear you. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! My boo, yeah! Palestine. My boo, yeah! My boo, yeah! Viva Hamas, viva! Viva Hamas, viva! Viva the Palestinian resistance, viva! Viva the Palestinian resistance, viva! Viva Palestinian resistance, viva! Amanza! Away to... Thank you, comrades. That's how I know Durban to be. to my respected elders, our mothers and fathers gathered here this evening, sisters and brothers, comrades and friends, our distinguished guests, members of parliament, my colleagues, dear listeners and the audience of Salam Media, to our participants, Dr. Gilbert, all our stall holders that have kept us going since the start of this afternoon, and all that are gathered here this evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And may the peace and blessings of God Almighty be with you all. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you who have made effort to participate in these fundraising activities with the foodstuff and all that has been sold here in order for us to be able to raise funds. It's sabotage, I can see. Amandla. Thank you, comrades. We are here to ensure, comrades and friends, that this evening and the days to come, while Dr. Gilbert is on tour in South Africa, we are able to raise funds for the Gaza medical care in collaboration with Salam Media. I also want to take this opportunity to express my appreciation to the Caring Sisters Network, the Islamic Medical Association, Baitul Nur, the North Beach Women's Volunteers, and the Indian Cultural Group. Comrades and friends, we live in difficult times in which people struggle to make a difference beyond their personal sphere of influence. You have responded this evening to the plight of our Palestinian brothers and sisters in Gaza and all over occupied Palestine who find themselves cut off from anything and everything. This whilst nearly 6 weeks of war crimes, ethnic cleansing, genocide in Gaza, and the losses are mounting. Events such as this provide us a barometer of the readiness and willingness of our community to move from just protest action to engage in concrete and constructive support to the resistance and to end and to bring about the need for humanitarian intervention in Gaza and all over occupied Palestine. I want to therefore take this opportunity to applaud all of you for your contribution, big or small. South Africans are known for their generosity, and I appeal therefore to all of you to support this fundraising effort. The Palestinian struggle is very close to our hearts, and it is indeed heartening to see the huge support that this event is attracting. Allow me to use this opportunity to send condolences to South African heroes of Gift of the Givers for their tragic loss of the head of operations in Gaza, Ahmed Abbasi. May Allah accept his martyrdom and grant sabr to his family in these difficult times. We send our condolences to all in the healthcare and aid workers, many of whom have donated their time, but in the end paid the ultimate price of sacrificing their lives just to provide aid. We want to acknowledge all those that are tirelessly struggling to keep the Palestinians alive, but they cannot do much more without our help. Comrades, talk is cheap without action, and we have to take drastic measures in their favor. We know that despite the loss of your dear friend and brother, Sarah, you will, Dr. Gilbert, continue with relief effort in Gaza and continue bringing hope to the people of Gaza and all over occupied Palestine. With each passing day, we continue to support the struggle for a free Palestine, and this event is a practical demonstration of that. Nearly 6 weeks into the war on Gaza, we see that the bombardment and the siege on Gaza proceeds unabated. The death toll now stands just under 13,000 people and more than 27,000 injured, and the number of displaced now stands at 1.6 million persons since the 7th of October 2023, whilst thousands are under the rubble. Of those killed, about 41% are children and 25% are women. On average, 1 child is killed and 2 are injured every 10 minutes during these massacres, which are turning Gaza into a graveyard for children, according to the UN Secretary General. Almost 200 medics and 102 United Nations staff, 41 journalists, frontline and human rights defenders have also been killed, while dozens of families over 5 generations have been wiped out. This is the sad reality we face, and this makes this fundraising effort so much more significant. We must continue to mobilize our communities, our towns, our cities, in our beloved country to bring the much needed relief. Our resistance fighters in Gaza and the occupied West Bank and along the borders of South Lebanon have demonstrated strong resistance from the Mujahideen. May Allah grant them victory as they fight for liberation of Gaza and all of occupied Palestine. Comrades and friends, yesterday, along with the South African Friends of Palestine and 28 NGOs, we sent a strong message to the government of the Republic of South Africa that it is time for stronger and swift action in the face of the Zionist onslaught. We called on the ANC-led government to immediately expel the apartheid Israeli ambassador. We called on our ANC-led government to intensify our efforts to isolate apartheid Israel through a number of concrete actions. Comrades, our government has to show true commitment in what we seek. Every day, the national airline of the Zionist apartheid state of Israel, El Al, flies into the Republic of South Africa. It is enabled to do so by the Department of Transport, by giving them FOPs, that is flight operating permits. We call on the ANC government, if it is truly on the right side of history and stands with the Palestinian brothers and sisters, it must immediately revoke those FOPs and do not allow the Zionist apartheid state of Israel airline El Al into the Republic. As I said, talk is cheap. It is time for action. This must include, comrades and friends, the intensifying of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions BDS campaign so that none of us buys any products from apartheid Israel and its illegal settlements. And because I am here in Durban with this beautiful pot we have here, I want to call on our dock workers here in Durban to emulate the San Francisco Bay dock workers that refused to handle apartheid fresh produce from the Republic of South Africa. Today, I call on you, Durbanites and people of eThekwini, to ensure that our dock workers refuse to handle any ship coming into Durban with fresh produce from the Zionist apartheid state of Israel. Comrades and friends, we also call for the prosecution of all South Africans fighting in the IDF, in violation of international law and the Foreign Military Assistance Act 15 of 1998. We cannot allow South Africans to kill innocent children and maim so many. It has been appalling to sit and watch South Africans from Cape Town who have schooled at Hesilia School, which has publicly stated that 20% of its graduates go and serve in the IDF. We therefore want to call on the Minister of Basic Education, Angie Motshekga, to look into that school and hold the principal accountable. We call on the Minister of Defense to likewise ensure that through the Foreign Military Assistance Act, these South Africans are prosecuted and held accountable. Comrades, it is easy to stand on platforms and say we stand with Gaza, and people all over occupied Palestine. But talk is cheap. It is time for action. And we call on our government to act. We call on an immediate embargo on arms sales and cutting all trade, cultural exchange, and sports and other bilateral relations. We also call on the general public to use all platforms of social media to continue raising awareness in the world about the genocide, crimes against humanity, ethnic cleansing in Gaza and all of occupied Palestine. Comrades, during our own struggle for liberation, we were able, through South Africans living in exile and our artists in particular like Miriam Makeba, Huma Segela, were able to carry the message across into the international community. We're able to ensure that our stories were heard in the global community. We therefore want, as South Africa, to share that experience with Palestinians in the diaspora. There are 6 million Palestinians in the diaspora, and we call on them to be ambassadors of their own struggle for liberation and ensure that all the atrocities meted on a daily basis against Palestinians find themselves on social media. Comrades and friends, last weekend we witnessed millions of people around the world joining in protest against the Zionist occupation. In every city of the world, people marched to demand an end to the genocide. We want to repeat our call to the International Criminal Court to charge and arrest Netanyahu and the war criminals in his cabinet. They must be held accountable for their actions and face the full might of the law. Their hands are stained with the blood of innocent children. Comrades and friends, we will continue to mobilize support for the Palestinian struggle, and we will stand with them just as they stood by us during the long and bitter years of our struggle for liberation against a brutal apartheid regime right here on our shores in South Africa. We gather this evening on the 3rd of we gather this evening, comrades and friends, to put a notice to all of you here in Durban and eThekwini that on the 3rd to the 5th of December, we will be hosting the 5th Global Convention of Solidarity with Palestine, which is entitled Nelson Mandela and Palestine, Confronting Racism Till Liberation. This conference, comrades and friends, has been agreed with the Palestinians in the diaspora based in Lebanon in the refugee camps, an NGO called the Global Call for the Return to Palestine, which I am a proud ambassador for, and in commemorating the 10th year anniversary of the passing of our global icon and the founding father of our nascent democracy, we have decided to bring 150 Palestinians from Gaza, from occupied Palestine, and in the diaspora to come to our shores for this conference. On the 3rd and 4th of December, the conference will be held at Cordoba Convention, and we call on all NGOs, CBOs, political parties, all unions and worker formations, religious and faith formations, to ensure that you register for this conference. And I am reachable on my email for any information, which is chiefmandela@gmail.com, one word, chiefmandela@gmail.com. This conference will conclude with a national march on the 5th of December, on the day that our global icon passed on. We will be marching to the union buildings to hand over a resolution of the conference. We will be sending comrades and friends 2 trains from Cape Town to Johannesburg to enable our comrades in the Western Cape to be able to get to the march on the 5th. We therefore call on all of you here in Durban and eThekwini to mobilize and ensure that all political parties, unions, and worker formations, religious and faith-based formations, NGOs and CBOs are enabled to come in their numbers in support of the people of Gaza and tell the world that we will stand with Palestine until freedom dawns. We will not stop until all of occupied Palestine is liberated and Palestinians are free to exercise their right to self-determination. Forward to a free Palestine, forward. Forward to a free Palestine, forward. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Maibuye. Maibuye. Thank you. Shukran, comrades and friends.
Amandla! Amandla! Awetu! Thank you, Chief Mandla Mandela, for your inspiring words and valuable insights. Your presence has added immense significance to our event. We are truly honored to have you as one of our speakers. Without any further delay, I ask Inayat Wadi, on behalf of Salam Media, to welcome our prestige guest, none other than Dr. Mads Gilbert.
Thank you once again to our Honorable Program Director. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this neck shawl that I am wearing has special significance. On the one side, it has the flag of Palestine, and on the other side, it says Free Gaza, and it has the flag of South Africa. And this tells us how closely the Palestinian struggle is linked to the South African struggle. In fact, when we talk to Palestinians, they look up at South Africa, one country that they have great hopes as far as a struggle for freedom and liberation grows. At Salam Media, we've been honored to be able to partner with many partners right across the entire country with the Dr. Mads Gilbert Tour. And Durban is no different. We'd like you to give yourselves a round of applause for pulling off what you have today in supporting us. We also want to thank all the various organizations, SAMNET, People Against Oppression, Caring Sisters Network, the Islamic Medical Association, and NMJ. And you have been very supportive of Salam Media over the years. A few months ago, we had the honor of archaeologists out of Jerusalem, Al-Quds, Dr. Abir Zayad, here in Durban. And this is now the second event of the year that we are bringing to you, courtesy of Salam Media and our partners to Durban. But just looking at Salam Media, it's a very small online audio visual media house. If we have 20 people, it's a lot. But one thing we must say is we have a young, diverse, committed, dedicated team who were given 5 days to actually pull the entire event together right across the country. 5 cities. We started off in Johannesburg today, Durban being the second, tomorrow Pretoria. On Sunday we're in Port Elizabeth, and on Monday we're in Cape Town. And as Salam Media in 2015, we started off and we coined the term humanitarian journalism. And this is exactly what we intended to do, to promote honest, ethical, independent journalism. And we remind you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and to everybody else that is listening to this broadcast, to the global community as well, that Salam Media has made a commitment to stand up, to speak up, and not to remain silent in the face of this unspeakable brutality, and to condemn in the strongest terms the carnage, the genocide that is unfolding. And this is the reason why we have brought Dr. Mads Gilbert to South Africa, to reinforce and to remind us of our responsibility, and also at the same time bringing a first-hand account of the stark reality of this dark chapter in human history. And with the way this carnage that is evolving in Gaza, the reality on the ground is increasingly painting a bleaker picture day by day. And if we think we have seen the worst, we shudder at the very thought of what might still come. And many are already predicting that this is going to be very, very fierce. Many are witnessing the atrocities and violations, and in gearing up ourselves for this upcoming phase of this genocide, we have a huge responsibility as activists, as governments, as civil societies, as humanitarians. And all of us need to embrace this cause of Palestine, not only looking at the people of Palestine as a nation, but Palestine is a cause. Palestine is a cause for the rest of the world, a cause for humanity, and that we must embrace. At the same time, we've seen right across the 4 corners of the world how people have come together in every corner of the world, galvanized in their support for the people of Palestine. And also at the same time, sending a very, very strong message, a profound message, a powerful message to those who support the Zionist state, to the imperialists, to the supremacists, to the killing machines of these countries who support the Zionist state with this murderous, hate-filled ideology. We tell them, we condemn your atrocities. We call for the liberation of Palestine. We call for their right to self-determination, to live in honor, to live in dignity, not evacuation, not devastation, not humiliation, not annihilation, and not genocide. And with these words, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me absolute pleasure to call on stage and to introduce to you Dr. Mads Gilbert, a physician and a professor at the Arctic University in Norway, specializing in emergency medicine. Dr. Mads has helped provide emergency trauma care in Gaza for over 4 decades. And before he arrived in South Africa, Dr. Mads Gilbert has been providing support from Egypt. He is awaiting entry into the besieged territory. He has been working in Palestine in healthcare since 1981. He's been around during past major bombardments, 2006, 2009, 2012, and 2014. And he travels to Gaza annually to teach, to treat, to research, and participate actively to improve Gaza's healthcare alongside his Palestinian colleagues. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dr. Mads Gilbert.
There's an announcement of noise.
What's it? Noise at the back. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick announcement. Apparently, there's quite a bit of noise coming from the back. So if we could just pay attention to Dr. Gilbert and his presentation. Thank you.
Salam alaikum, everyone. It's fantastic to be in Durban. I did not want to be here at all because I want to be in Gaza and not in Durban. But since the Israeli occupiers have sealed off Gaza completely, we have not been allowed by the occupiers to come in and do our medical mission. But we will not give up. We will stay in Africa. We will stay in Cairo until we get into Gaza to join forces with our brothers and sisters in Gaza to treat in solidarity with them, the wounded and the people needing help. And that's our little contribution to the fight for a free Palestine. I make it a little dark because I want you to watch the pictures and not me. I am not important. What is important is the message. This is my T-shirt, the back of my T-shirts. I've been carrying this for the last 2 years. I bought it in beautiful Al-Quds, and those of you who know Arabic knows that it says Kuluna Gaza. And Kuluna Gaza means in Arabic that we are all Gaza. Kuluna Gaza, can you all say that? Kuluna Gaza? Oh, that's bad. Kuluna Gaza. Tamam, very good. I will be talking about the situation in Gaza. Let me just see that this is working. And I want to say to you all these dark days that Gaza exists and Gaza resists. They will never ever give up their land. I got a beautiful black hoodie in Amman when I was there last week to participate in some demonstrations. It was made by a young Palestinian medical student in Amman. And on the front page, on the front of the hoodie, was Darwish's beautiful poem, "As long as the Satar and the olives stay, we will stay in Palestine." This picture, obviously, from the Great March of Return, when they were doing the peaceful demonstration, and they were beaten, they were shot, they were killed, and they were shot in the legs and in the arms. Gaza will not give up, and we will not give up our solidarity, even in the middle of all this hardship and all these attacks that we have been hearing about. The Palestinian people in Gaza are being bombed, killed, wounded, chased, thirsted, bled to death, and scared to death, all the children. They will not yield. And what you see in this picture is from Shifa Hospital, obviously, where they are finding solutions to the most impossible situations. So my main message to you tonight, it is that you are needed. Every one of you are needed. And as Mandela said, speak is not enough. We need to have action. And I want to thank the organizers very much. I love all of these organizations that have come together today. And also want to thank Salam Media for inviting me. But I am here to join the United Front for Palestine. Every one of us is important. Every one of us can make a change. And we need all of these organizations. If you want to follow me, this is me, and I have just made an ex-Twitter account from Cairo, and it already has 15 million hits. So take a note, we put up a lot of stuff there, very, very fresh stuff from Gaza, and you can all join in and find information and updated information. Palestine is an endless history of colonialism and racism. Israel, the state of Israel, is an endless history of colonialism and racism and occupation. And it's long-lasting. Already in 1946, 2 years before the Nakba, Gandhi said, why should Jews depend on American money or British arms for forcing themselves on an unwelcome land? Why should they resort to terrorism to make good their forcible landing in Palestine? Very prophetic words, and your fantastic leader, Nelson Mandela, he said in 1962, when he was a young lawyer and he was on trial before the apartheid court in South Africa. Mandela said, no power on earth can stop an oppressed people determined to win their freedom. History punishes those who resort to force and fraud to suppress the claims and the legitimate aspirations of the majority of the country's citizens. Government violence can do only one thing, and that is to breed counter-violence, also called liberation, also called the armed resistance against occupation. He was right then, and he's still right. Gaza exists, Gaza exists, Gaza resists. To resist is to exist, they say, and Gaza 2023 is needing you badly, badly needing you. You are an army. You are an army, I don't know, 1,000, 1,200 people. If every one of you do three things for Gaza every day, it will be really, really an army of good deeds that will break the colonial power, and it will smash the support from the United States to Israel. And that is what we need to do. We need to think of ourselves as power, as drops that can hollow the stone. Can I have a little light again? Can you put on the spots, please? Another great African leader, Samora Machel, he said that solidarity is not an act of charity. Solidarity is an act of unity between allies fighting on different terrains towards the same objective. When I make a demonstration in my hometown in Tromsø, in Norway, when a young South African girl makes a fairy tale book, a little storybook about Gaza, all of these actions are actions that can change the world and indeed will change the world. I tell you what, today, young doctors and nurses in more than 25 hospitals in my country stepped out of the hospitals at lunchtime and said with big banners, we support our colleagues, our brothers and sisters in Gaza. We demand protection of the hospitals and the patients. It was a massive national demonstration started by young medical doctors, girls. And we also can feel helpless, but I will come back to some other examples of what we can do. We can just keep the light on. So Gaza is siege, Gaza is hard living, but Gaza is dignity, sumud, survival, and resistance. My last trip to Gaza was in June this year. I was there for 2 weeks to teach and train and work with my colleagues, my friends, and we were working on cancer care, actually, with my fabulous leader, senior consultant, Dr. Sobiskeik. And it was a beautiful time. It was summer. But the problem, of course, is that Gaza this year has been under siege for 16 years. Brutal siege that has drained the society of everything: private sector, schooling system, water pipelines, sewage system. Everything has been gradually, day by day, drained by the Israeli occupiers. This is Amal Samuni, I got to know her in 2009 when she almost was killed. Her father was killed. Her little brother was killed. And I will share with you some of these stories that has taught me what, number one, what it means to live in Gaza, but more importantly, that has taught me about the fantastic energy, the dignity, and the survival instincts and power of the people of Gaza. Any enemy who tries to beat Gaza will be beaten, I can tell you that. So this is Gaza, just a little geography time now. Down here is Rafah. And this one is an interesting point, Kerem Shalom, which is the Israeli point of entry for all the trucks to Gaza. Up here is Erez, or was Erez, that was the entry from Israel. So basically, you only had 2 entries and exits to Gaza, the rest completely sealed off from the air, from the ground, and from the sea by the Israeli occupation army. Completely sealed off. I have to apply every 6 months to be allowed to go to Gaza and do medical work. And who do I have to ask? Palestinian authorities? No, I have to ask the occupiers. The occupiers decide if I am allowed to go in or not. I have to behave. But I get my permission, so down here, Rafah there, Khmer Shalom here, and up here is Erez. Down here on the Mediterranean coast is El Arish, an Egyptian coastal city, where all the trucks that are supposed to run freely into Gaza with all the relief, they are standing there waiting to have permission from the occupiers to get in. And then they are letting in a few trucks per day. Because of the siege, Gaza was dependent on an average of 400 truckloads per day before this happened to survive. Because of the siege, you know, there is so much you need. So 400 trucks per day. And now, after the 5 weeks of bombing, they're letting in 10 to 20 trucks per day. What is that? That is slowly killing people from lack of food, lack of medicine, lack of drinking water, lack of everything you need. And all the trucks that are waiting down here in El Arish, before they can go to Rafah and go into Gaza, they have to go all the way over here to Khmer Shalom, where the Israeli soldiers are going through every box, every single box of relief from good people. And they take out what they don't want the Palestinians to have. They pick it out. And I'm going to make a point. I'm not a very angry man, but I'm extremely angry these days because of this sadistic way of treating the people in Gaza. I mean, they've been controlling them for, you know, all the time since the occupation, and for the last 16 years, there's been a very strict siege. But now it's gone one step further. They have completed the blockade, and down here, they are actually going through all the boxes. And you know what they take out? I don't know the full list, but I know from a very, very high-ranking source, they take out all the anesthetic drugs. All the anesthetic drugs that Gaza so badly need. And I'd like to make one important comment tonight, my friends. No doctor in Gaza is performing major surgery without anesthesia on the patients. My colleagues in Gaza, they hold a very high standard. They don't do cesarean sections or thoracotomies or open the abdomen without general anesthesia. But they lack anesthetic drugs, they lack local anesthesia, so you may have to do some wound cleaning and some small stitching and some fracture treatment without the local anesthetic that you wanted. But the general anesthesia, they try to preserve it for the big cases. But this little story about how they, number one, do not allow sufficient truckloads in with relief, and number two, take out what the Palestinians are not allowed to have. So if your beautiful daughter has a big shrapnel wound, the doctors in Al-Aqsa Hospital will have to clean that wound without local anesthetics. Because the occupiers want the people of Gaza not only to control them, but they want them to suffer as much as possible. And I think that gives me such a bad feeling that I can almost die. And I feel some mornings that I can't get out of bed because I'm so scared about the WhatsApp messages that are waiting for me from Gaza about how the situation is. But we have to get out of bed and we have to continue our support. So a merciless siege for 16 years before this last attack. So the society, the human society of Gaza, with 2.2 million beautiful people, had been squeezed to the utter end of survival. 50% poverty, 70% unemployment among the young ones, 92% of the water unfit for human consumption, lack of everything. Private sector not working at all because they don't have the stuff. But then you meet these. So here I'm taking a walk along the shores of Gaza, and I meet these children. This is in June. No, it's September last year. And they are playing, and they are happy, and they smile, and they greet me with a shout of hello. So if you think that all the children of Gaza have PTSD, if you think that all the children of Gaza has PTSD, they don't. They manage, they survive. And what are the most important factors for survival in Gaza? It's not the foreign helpers. It's not Médecins Sans Frontières or Red Cross. It's the family, the extended family. It's the faith, Islam or Christianity. It is the all-inclusive project of a free Palestine, and it is solidarity from others. These are the factors that make it possible to children who have had nothing but bombing and siege through their life to survive and meet you with a smile and with a happy laughter. I do not know how many of these kids are alive today. They may be among the 6,000 killed by the Israeli army. So Gaza is massive unemployment, massive poverty, huge medical needs, and I would call it de-education because they also attack the schools. And all of these effects is a direct result of the siege. But Gaza is also resilience, it's resistance, it is sumud. You know the word sumud? Sumud? It is part of the Palestinian virtue, their character. It means, in English, steadfastness. To stand tall, to stand strong, to not give up. Sumud. And you feel it every day you are in Gaza. Two things stand out when you are in Gaza. The fantastic Palestinian hospitality. You know, I am sort of a sporty guy, and when I go to Gaza, actually I go to Gaza on behalf of my university hospital. They send me to Gaza and they pay my wages. Isn't that nice for a governmental hospital? But when I go to Gaza, I come home always with 1 or 2 or 3 kilo more. Here. And my colleagues say, what's wrong with you? You go to Gaza and you tell me about all this poverty and the lack of food and they're undernourished. And you come home fat like a pig. And I have to tell them about this thing they don't know about, namely Palestinian hospitality. They will rather eat grass than not serve their guests the best maklube, the best grilled fish, the best whatever, because they are such a warm, rich, and hospitable people. I love them. It's my second home. I want you all to go to Gaza, to the free Gaza, and enjoy this life. So a little bit later, I'm going to talk for about 4 hours. Is that okay? That's fine? Tamam? Okay, this is Amal and Abdullah. They are twins, and they are some of the many children that I have met and been happy to take part in the treatment of. They were nearly killed in 2009. Now they're growing up, and I want to take you through their life a little bit later and show you how it is possible to survive, even under these hardships. Because every psychologist in the West would say, oh my God, they must have PTSD 100%. We need to send 14 jet planes with psychologists to Gaza. That's what they need. They need psychology, treatment. No, they don't need that. They need freedom from colonialism. They need freedom from occupation. They need freedom from bombing. And they need freedom from the Israeli brutality. So they have survived. They have not had anything but siege, bombing, death in their lives. They greet me with a smile. Amal gets a little troll from Norway. And Abdullah says, I have pain in the ass, Dr. Mats. I can't do my homework. I have so much pain in the ass. Can you help me? And I say, of course, Habibi, I'm going to help you. And Amal says, I still have headache, I still have nosebleed, and I still bleed from the ear. You must look at me. I'll come back to that. So these are two faces. No. I have a new clicker, and it's from Cairo, and it's, of course, the other way around, because it's Arabic, so it goes this way. That's why I have to back up sometimes. And these years of siege, they have been extremely brutal. So Amal, she has been living a life without any chance to leave Gaza. She has been living without her father because he was killed. This is her beautiful mother. So this is Amal's mother. And Amal has married, and she has got 2 sons, these 2 beautiful boys. And this was in June this year, and we were talking because I always go home to them in Zaytoun, which is one of the poorest areas of Gaza City. And we drink tea, and we talk about life, and we talk about the occupation, and we talk about children and flowers and all the beautiful things in life. And I asked Amal, and I said, you know, still there is siege, occupation, and what can we do? And she says, life has to go on. I do not know if Amal is alive or if she was killed. I do not know if her children are alive or if they were killed, because I haven't heard from them for 2.5 weeks. No part of the population in Gaza has been spared for the severe negative consequences of the current closure regime. And this is one of the many reports on the effects of the siege. It has massive negative effects, and it is a man-made suffocation of 2.2 million people that Joe Biden and EU and all the other Western governments are allowing to go on, and they don't do anything about it, and that is a shame for the global North. But there are people who are standing up to their work, and that is, of course, the heroic health workers of Gaza. I took this picture in 2014 during one of the nights of relentless Israeli bombing. The 20th of July, 2014, we had more than 400 patients coming to Shifa. We worked until we fainted. It was Ramadan. I'm not a Muslim, but of course I fasted together with my brothers and sisters, and it was quite hard, I can tell you, to have this constant work 24 hours per day. But these people, the nurses and the doctors, they never give up. And you see how drained they are. He tries to smile. He's my smiling friend. He's an orthopedic surgeon. He's an anesthetist, and they are my heroes. And they never give in, they never give up, they never leave their patients and their people. And we heard their voices now during these 5 weeks when they have been threatened by the Israeli commanders, the generals who have called their hospitals and said, leave the hospital, take the patients out, leave because we are going to bomb you. What do these people do? They say, no, we stand with our patients, we stand with our people, you cannot threaten us. And I think they deserve a big applause. And right now, of course, the situation is extreme. It's more extreme than it was in 2014 and 2021. There are patients everywhere, and there are almost unbearable conditions. I'll show you a few videos from Shifa, filmed by my respected friend and leader, Dr. Youssef Abourish. He's the Deputy Minister of Health. He's a formidable doctor, he's a pediatrician, and he is the leader of the healthcare system in Gaza, and has been that for about 10 years. So his leadership is executed in Gaza. He works clinically in Shifa. He's been there for the last 3 weeks. And I don't want to say it, but I have not heard from him for the last 32 hours, and I do not know if he is alive. He might have been killed by the Israeli forces when they entered into Shifa yesterday. He walks with his patients.
Again, it's shameful to have such situation in a hospital while we are talking about 2023.
So he walks around, the hospital is completely filled, and this is what he sees. And he walks further.
It's catastrophic. Really, it's catastrophic situation. These are the kids. على الأرض مش هصورهم. هصور الممر. And you can, this is the staff who are working while there is no electricity. They are doing their best, but unfortunately they are unable to do anything while this department is full of displaced people, and they are trying, actually they are trying with a very difficult situation, trying to reach the difficult rooms where a lot of cases are inside, and you can see what is going on the ground.
Shifa Hospital welcomed 50,000 internally displaced refugees into the hospital, and that's what we see here. Families, women, children, all over, in every corridor, in every stairway, in every waiting room, the whole hospital. And I'm not going to show you pictures like I did last time in 2014 of horrible injuries, because I don't think you need that, because you can see that on the social media. But I'll try to give you some impressions on how dreadful this situation must have been for the 50,000 internally displaced, and for the 1,000 war wounded they had, and for the staff, and all of them had no water, had no food, and of course had no human security. And as they were trying to treat and to protect the refugees, these constant threats of bombing came closer and closer. They saw what happened 4 blocks down the road with Mustashfa al-Quds, the Red Crescent Hospital, the Jerusalem Hospital, who was bombed closer and closer to the perimeter of the hospital, and finally was bombed. And they feared the worst, that they will be bombed, they also. And finally they were. What? Wrong way. This is the right way.
Again.
No. där är vi. So attacking in healthcare, to attack schools, to attack universities, to attack the Palestinian people is part of the colonial plot. It's part of the daily activities of the occupying power, Israel, and they are doing it in a more and more and more brutal and inhuman way, to put it in a very low-speaking language. But the Palestinians do never give up. The hospitals are filled with so many patients, there is barely room on the floor to treat them. They lose the capacity, they don't have beds, they put them on the floor, and soon they don't have stretchers. But the healthcare workers in Gaza, they are world champions in improvising and finding solutions. I have learned more from my colleagues in Gaza than I learned in medical school in Norway, and that I've learned through the 50 years that I've been doctor this year. These are my teachers, I tell you, these are my teachers. Look at them, look at them, look at the compassion in this picture. He is wounded, he is alive, he can breathe, he has no stretcher, they put some sheet on the floor, they bring their dirt, their instruments, they have been trying to cook them, they don't have local anesthetics, but look at the intensity, and I see and I feel and I hear that they are saying, quiet, Habibi, quiet, 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 Habibi. Kullu kwayis, we will treat you, we will not leave you, we will stand by your side, we will be your protection, even if the army of Israel is standing outside with the tanks pointing to our hospital. Can you imagine that bravery? Can you imagine how brave these people are? And they do it with total concentration, go all in. And these doctors and nurses, they know that their family can be killed the next hour. They all have an earpiece to a local FM radio because they listen to the reporting of where the bombs are falling. So they can be prepared if their neighborhood is bombed, so they can be prepared to receive their own family as patients, inshallah, or as martyrs. So there has been an endless, repetitious bombing of Gaza since 2006. Approximately every fourth year. I took this picture during a bombing campaign in 2019. And this is what the operating room looks like. Here we had one war injured who had a bilateral, both legs amputated and shrapnels to the abdomen. Took us 3 hours to save his life, and this is what it looks like, one patient. Now imagine that you have 28,000 wounded, which is the number till now, and you are going to give maybe 2,000 of them life-saving surgery. This is how it looks, and the most important person to make this operating room work, it's the janitor. It's not the surgeon, it's not the nurse, it is the cleaner, who are just as brave as the others. The intensity, and don't forget that these charming occupiers, Israel, they have turned off the electricity, so there is no air conditioning. There's barely some light from the generators. They have turned off the fuel supply, so they have to ration all the energy they have. All the generators have to be running on low speed only to allow electricity to some functions. The heat is immense, the stench is very strong, and of course the images of the amputations. This is what it looks like. This is a man-made destruction of the human body. And this is what the Israelis are experts on. It is to make amputations. During the long march of return, we have studied it, and we have studied and published the results. You know, there were 100 snipers all along the fence, Israeli snipers, hidden in tents, camouflage tents, and they were shooting. And what were they doing? Were they shooting to kill? No. They were shooting to the knees, to the ankles, and to the elbows of the young boys, throwing stones and protesting the occupation. to invalidate them, to make them handicapped, to shoot and destroy their extremities in order to tell them the story that if you oppose our occupation, we will damage you. This was a young man, and he lost one of his legs. But they don't give up. And I show this picture. Please take a note. I don't show many pictures of myself because I am not an important person. I show you this picture because these people, Dr. Sara Al-Saka, she's the first female surgeon who got her specialization 2 weeks ago from the United Kingdom. The first woman surgeon in Palestine, I love Sara. You can follow her on TikTok. She makes fantastic things. She's a surgeon. Dr. Marwan Abu Sada. Those of you who have followed have heard his name during these horrible weeks. He is now the head of international cooperation in Gaza in the Ministry of Health. He's a savvy, extremely clever surgeon. He's the guy who does the sorting when we have 200 coming in with wounds. He says, die, surgery, 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 resuscitation, die. That's a very heavy job because when you have 200, 300, 400 patients, you cannot treat everyone like we would do with one patient. You have to minimize the amount of resources you use on every patient in order to save as many as possible. Marwan, I love you. You're so clever. This is Dr. Sobis Cake. He used to be the head of Shifa. He's a British-trained surgeon, a brilliant man. His daughter, Nashwa Cake, is a doctor. She is in Geneva now. And he said when he was going to retire, I'm not going to retire. I want to work. So he became the head of the new Gaza Cancer Center in the Turkish hospital. And he was nearly killed when the Israeli tanks shot artillery shells into the Turkish hospital about 2 weeks ago. Mashallah, he is alive, and I'm so thankful. So this is during a little break in the Israeli bombing. I think it was 3 o'clock in the morning. You can see how sweat this white blonde guy is. He's not used to this hard work, so he's sweating, but he holds on. He holds on to his Palestinian comrades. And most Western people, if they look at this picture, they will only know the name of Dr. Mads Gilbert because he's white. He's white. He's from the north. He's part of the colonial ruler class. So they will have a name on him, and the others will be unnamed because Europe and the United States still are living in this colonial fantasy that they are better than all the people in the global south. These are the heroes. These are the heroes. So to me, there is no doubt the heroes are the Palestinian medical staff, the volunteers, the leaders, and the people of Gaza. I learn from them. And I don't go there to teach them. I go there to show my medical solidarity. I'm not a humanitarian worker. I'm a medical solidarity worker. I want to stand shoulder to them. I want to be led by them. I work under their leadership. And I'm there to document what's happening to their patients and them, and also to publish that, of course. But this is not a relief mission. This is a solidarity mission. And I'd like to say to all of you who talk about Palestine and Israel, and you say that this is such a difficult situation, this is not a difficult conflict. This is a difficult occupation. And a conflict and an occupation, they are solved with very different means. Occupation is solved with resistance, and I fully support the Palestinian resistance against the occupation, and I fully support the armed resistance. The most important health problem in Palestine, it's not lack of food or bad water, it is the occupation, and this was said by the Deputy Minister of Health in 2017. I think it's a good quote. What is needed now, my friends? What is needed now for Gaza? It's 3 things. It's solidarity, it's activism, and it is concrete action. And everybody can do something. Everybody can do something. When we started this meeting, a beautiful young lady came up to me. Her name is Zainab. And Zainab, she brought me this envelope. And I opened it, and it brought me to tears, because Zainab is one of these millions in the world who has been feeling helpless. Raise your hand, those of you who have felt helpless when you have seen the pictures from Gaza. How many have been helpless? Yes, 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 exactly. That's what they want us to feel. They want us to feel like particles, alone, singular, not together, not strong, not able to do anything, because they want to rule us, and they want to rule our mind by making us feel helpless. So she came up to me, Zainab, and she gave me this book, and she writes in the acknowledgement, she writes, I feel a sense, no, she says, being so many hundred of miles away from Gaza, I feel a sense of utter helplessness, horror, and indescribable pain. This book is my gift to the angels of Gaza. I want to give them a voice because their voices are buried beneath the rubble of their destroyed city. More importantly, the world needs to know what price the children of Palestine are paying for freedom. And the book is utterly beautiful. It is fantastically made. The story is very moving. I've read it already. And the book is called A Letter from Gaza to the World. Zainab, come on, I want to show you. Zainab, where are you? Zainab, let's give a big hand to Zainab. Can we have some light? Can we have some light? Zainab. Habibti, I want to cry too. I mean, give her a hand. Give her a hand. She's done that. She made this book. She made this book. And you made it together with your friends. And it's Fatima and Diancha. Are they here? No.
Diancha's from the UK.
They're from the UK. So this book made her feel less helpless. I'm going to take this book to Norway. I'm going to translate it. I'm going to make that the Christmas gift of this year. Zainab, I love you. Thank you. Thank you. And keep on making beautiful books for children. And what she has done is precisely what we need to do, everyone. What can I do? Can I make a plant? Can I write a poem? Can I collect some money? Can I bake some food and sell it? Can I have a discussion with my neighbors? Can I organize a big event like this? Can I organize a small event? No event is too small. It is, at the end of the day, the drop that hollows the stone, and we are a million drops, and we will crush them. Shukran. Shukran. Thank you very much. Zainab. Zainab. I'll pass it around, but dare you steal it, I will kill you. Pass it around. So don't give up, my friends, comrades, brothers, sisters. Don't give up. Imagine what you can do. In your prayers, with your hands, with your mind, with your love. My two favorite words in my language, it is love and it is solidarity. These two words, I think, can change the world, and you are all parts of that army of solidarity. And I was so incredibly impressed and energized by the Shack Dwellers movement, the red girls and boys down there. What a gang. Can you stand up? Can you stand up? The Shack Dwellers movement. Yalla. You know, what you show is strength and solidarity. You don't give up even if you don't have a home. And you're going to go to Gaza and work with them to rebuild their homes. Come on. I respect you so much. Shukran. Great. So we don't have to be doctors or professors or big people and big money people to make a difference. Everyone can do something. Are you okay? Can I go on a little bit more? That's fine? Another 3 hours. Brother, you're still awake. Mashallah. Shukran. Yeah. And now we're going into the serious again. This is a message I got from Dr. Youssef a few days ago. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was in Cairo. And he said, there is no time, Dr. Mads. He was in Shifa. And first, I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Dr. Youssef Abarish. Look at him. This is the Minister of Health in Gaza. He is not interviewed by CNN and BBC. They interview me. Why? Because I'm white, blue-eyed, and blonde. So I'm to be trusted by the North. Huh? Can't talk to the, you know what he is? You know what he is? Don't tell anybody, but he's probably Hamas. He's probably Hamas, you know? And maybe his children are Hamas. We cannot trust these people because they're Hamas. I don't give a shit if they're Hamas. I support them because they are resistance fighters. That's what they are. And I tell you what, Dr. Youssef is the most gentle doctor I know. He's a pediatrician. After his 12 hours working days in the Ministry of Health, he goes home to the southern part, close to Zaytun, and he opens his private clinic and he treats people for free. Poor people, lots of poor people in Gaza, they come to Dr. Youssef, he treats them. He's a clinician and he's a fierce leader, a fierce leader. This is now in June this year. This is his family. I always go and have dinner with them. His wife is Syrian, so the food is fantastic. And these are 4 of his 5 kids. He is very, very preoccupied with Amu Mats. I'm Amu Mats. I've known these children since they were born, and we always have ice cream and lemonade when I'm leaving. So we were going to have the goodbye party. We had ice cream. Dr. Youssef was with me, and Mohammed, the youngest son, he said, I want to discuss something. And I could see that Dr. Youssef was a little bit uneasy. And little Mohammed, this is Mohammed, this beautiful boy with the white shirt, he says, I want to discuss something. How come? And of course, Dr. Youssef is a devoted Muslim. He's both Hamas and a Muslim. I mean, how bad can it get? My dear beloved friends in the back, can you please shut up? Yalla, fadla. So Muhammad, he says, how come that Dr. Mads, who is such a good person, is not a Muslim? Quiet. Quiet. His father, Dr. Youssef, he moves in the chair and he doesn't really know what to say. So we have a very good discussion. I say, no, I'm not a Muslim. I respect your faith. I am a romantic agnostic. You know what that is? I believe in any God who passes by when I need it. Nature, Allah, God, Almighty, Buddha. I'm not picky about the gods. So we have a discussion, and Dr. Youssef started to say that you can be a good person even if you're not a Muslim. I think that Dr. Youssef actually thinks that I am a Muslim, I just don't know it. So, you never know. You never know. Inshallah, yeah. And then his eldest daughter, who has a hijab and is quite relaxed, and she thinks this discussion with the little brother is stupid, she leans back and she listens for a while, and then she says, you know what? I don't care what he is. I just want to see him in paradise. So this is Dr. Youssef Abarish, my beloved brother. I don't know if these fascist Israeli occupation forces have killed him inside Shifa. If they have, my next move is a Kalashnikov. I tell you. I tell you. I'm not kidding you. And I'm going to go down there with 500 of you guys. I'm not a militant. But there is a limit to how many people they can kill without any consequences from the world. Of course, to all of you, the few, how many Mossad agents are there here tonight? 4, 5? So I didn't mean that with the Kalashnikov, just move to strike. It was just a symbol. Okay, so he calls me and he says, there is no time, Dr. Mads. We are still surviving, but it's miserable. There is no bread, food, or water. Just essential services in the hospital. Most of the time, no administration personnel due to lack of electricity. Most of our staff have not had a piece of bread in days. And he continues, no, sorry. Wrong way. He continues, we try to have minimal amount of water. Situation is so miserable, extreme situation. We continued to provide service, but no medicines. And I ask him, what can you do for the injured children? Because they are the majority. And he says, nothing, but we pray for them. Many of these children have burns. Burns are very common in war. Burns need to be dressed twice daily, very carefully, with clean antiseptic fluids and clean bandages. 100% of the war wounds in Gaza in all the hospitals are infected now. Why? Because the occupying force has turned off the water from Israel into Gaza and turned off the electricity so that the water-producing plants in Gaza cannot produce water, and turned off the electricity to Shifa so they cannot run their sterilization machines. Result, 100% infected burns in all the kids. So when they dress and take off the dressing, and my respected colleague, you know that you take it off carefully, and you want to find a nice and clean wound, and then you take away the dead tissue and put on a new bandage. What they find when they take off the bandage are maggots, fly larvae in the wounds of the children. 2023. And you didn't have to do more than just allow the water and the electricity, and then they would have managed. It is cruelty beyond any cruelty. We pray for them. All this is known about Israel's war crimes. It's reported, it's researched, it's published, it's documented. Why is it still the way it is? And I think the answer is quite simple. This is just an example. We published this 17th of January in 2009 when we came out from Shifa after having been working there under the bombardment during Operation Castled. This is published in the Lancet, and this Mr. Mark Regev, the spokesperson of the Israeli Prime Minister, he attacked the Lancet immediately. This is January 17, 2009, and I wrote this paper, and it says, living hell. This is Shifa in 2009. Then you had 2012. Then you had 2014. Then you had 2021. And then you have 2023. It has been known. All the world leaders have known what they have been doing, have known the numbers of killed, have known the attacks on healthcare, and still it goes on. So, do you need some numbers? I'll give you some more numbers before I conclude. This is a recent report, came 2 days ago, the 14th of November. It is from the Gaza Health Cluster meeting in WHO. These are all the NGOs in healthcare, plus the UN organizations meeting, and they were summing up the situation. It was not meant for the public, but I got it, and I published it, of course. Let's see. For number one, Palestinians killed and wounded by the Israeli occupation forces during these last 4.5 weeks. This is the graph, and you can see down here, you can see it's WHO, Health Cluster, here you have Gaza, and here you have all the numbers. And the numbers are, they have killed 12,000, 50%, or 49.7% are children. They have wounded 28,000. These numbers, you must know them by heart. You must know them by heart. First 4 weeks, 12,000 killed, half of them children. 6,000 killed or missing under the rubble, 1,450. So the sum is precisely 6,000. 28,000 wounded, so it means that 40,000 Palestinians have been killed or wounded in Gaza during 4 weeks. That's 10,000 per week. Why doesn't the mainstream media write about that? Why don't they publish these numbers? Why are we only hearing that Joe Biden, the asshole, the big stupid asshole, he says, when they start to realize how bad these numbers are for whatever reputation Israel might have in the West, he starts to say, I don't think, I'm not sure if these numbers are right. All right, yeah, fine, thanks. So you think the colonized people, the people in the South, they can't count? Is that what you're saying? They don't know how to count their dead ones? I think the Palestinian people is the only people on earth who have to prove that they have been killed. Because the West are trying to invalidate everything they say. I know how they count it, because I studied it. I've examined their methodology. These numbers are from the Palestinian Health Ministry, used by United Nations and even by State Department in the United States. So these numbers are true. And this graph I just got, these are 6,000 small children. Can you see here? Every one of this is a child killed in Gaza, and that's you, or that's your child. Look at that number. When was it ever defense of your country to kill 6,000 children? When in history was that ever defined as defense? And when in history did anyone get away with the cruelty which is inherent in the number of killing 6,000 children? And what would the stupid asshole Biden have said if these had been 6,000 white children with blue eyes and blonde hair? You know, this is racism. That's what it is. It is profound racism. It's colonial racism. And it is, one word to describe it, which you know so well, this is apartheid. This is precisely apartheid. And you are needed to fight this apartheid to the end. And then if we look at, no, it's that one. If we look at point number 2, Israeli attacks on Palestinian hospitals in Gaza. Everybody's talking about Shifa. Ooh, Shifa, 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 Shifa. Shifa and Hamas, Shifa and Hamas. I don't support Hamas. I don't support Fatah. I don't support Jihad. I don't support PFLP. I support the Palestinian people and their right to resist occupation with arms. With arms. Because that is anchored in international law. An occupied people has the right to fight the occupiers with arms as they see fit. And that's what the Palestinians are doing. Of course, within the limits of the Geneva Convention, I am against all terror against civilians. And I mean, if the resistance in Gaza have done something wrong with regards to civilians, they need to be prosecuted. But that's not the problem, I assure you. They may have made some mistakes and some faults, and they should be examined and investigated. But the great war criminal is, of course, the Israeli army. So Shifa has been the focal point, and I've had about 1.4 million questions. You have worked in Shifa. Is there a Hamas military command and control center there? And I don't know how many times I've told these journalists that no, I haven't seen any. Have you? And it's been 16 years we've heard these claims, and where are the proofs? I mean, is the Israeli intelligence so stupid that they can't provide some proofs of a big bunker in the run of 16 years? The fact is, it's a bloody lie. There is no bunker. The Israelis built a bunker under Shifa when they were in Gaza. I think it was 1984. So that bunker, they know it's there, but it's trashed. It's not used for anything. And, mind you, yeah, that's what it sounds. When the bombs from the F-16, I feel immediately, I feel the reaction, because this is your thunder, is their death. Look at these numbers. These are the number of hospitals that they have destroyed or closed down because of lack of electricity or because of damage. This graph, I'll explain it to you. It starts here, October 8th. The green ones are hospitals that are partially working, and the gray ones are hospitals that are completely shut down. This is the 12th of November. And you see, wrong again, sorry. You see, it's been gradually, day by day, going down. So here, when it all started, there were 34 partially functioning hospitals in Gaza. And there were 2 not functioning hospitals. They were lacking supplies and had some technical problems. Within these 4.5 weeks, November 14, there are 9 functioning hospitals and 27 non-functioning hospitals. It's not only Shifa. It's nothing to do with Shifa. It's nothing to do with command center. This is the all-out Israeli attacks on healthcare. And they've done that for as long as I've been working with Palestinian healthcare. I was in Beirut in 1982 during the Israeli invasion of Lebanon and the siege of Beirut that ended with Sabra and Shatila. They did the same. They came up through Lebanon, encircled West Beirut, cut the water, cut the food, cut the fuel, cut the medical supplies. We were smuggled in under some rugs in a rusty car. And I worked there as a young Norwegian, naive, blue-eyed anesthesiologist. And I really, for the first time in my life, I experienced the Israeli murder machine. They bombed everything. They bombed the psychiatric hospital, ambulances. They bombed, people came to rescue. They came back and bombed and killed them. It was horrendous. I thought I would never experience anything like Beirut 82. And it's becoming worse and worse and worse. So this is a pattern. This is a pattern that UN knows. Everybody knows it, that they're attacking hospitals. So why all this talk about Shifa? Because they tried to make a smokescreen. They're liars. They tried to fool people. And then it's like, okay, so if it's a military command, maybe I think they could bomb it then. Yeah, maybe. Full of people, patients? No, you cannot. The Geneva Convention is absolutely clear. It's proportionality, precaution, and precaution, proportionality, and prevention. Yeah, you are not allowed to bomb a civilian target like a school or a hospital. If it is a mixed military-civilian target, like there is a church or a mosque with 400 people and 2 freedom fighters, you can't bomb it because the civilian priority is higher than the military gain, according to the Geneva Convention. So even if there was something in Shifa, they couldn't have bombed it. But they don't care. They bombed the Turkish hospital, the cancer hospital. They bombed the Rantisi hospital, the pediatric oncology hospital. They bombed Al-Quds. They bombed the Indonesian hospital. They bombed all of the hospitals without even bothering to claim that it was a military command post. Why do they attack healthcare? Because they know that a people without healthcare, they become quite weak. You never get an army to fight without a military medical support. You know, field hospitals and all that, medics in the front line with bandages and painkillers and everything. That's to keep the fighting morale up. A people who lose completely their healthcare will be weakened, there is no doubt. A people who see their social fabric falling apart, schools, hospitals, water supply, bakeries, everything that is needed for life will be weakened. The Israeli tactic is to attack the Palestinian civilian society, not their soldiers. They're cowards. They're shit scared. You know, if they meet Palestinian fighters man to man, they run. That's what happened the 4th of October. When they were out of their tanks and out of their remote control of the drones and not sitting in F-16, they fell apart. So what do? They try to weaken the Palestinian resistance by taking out hospitals, schools, universities, water, food, whatever. So here is the graph, and there you see what all the world's leaders have known for this last 4 weeks. They have destroyed 27, and there is only 9 remaining hospitals. 9 hospitals with only maybe 40–50% function. It's not enough to serve 2.2 million people, and it's not enough to serve all the wounded, of course. So this is a slow strangulation, suffocation of the Palestinian people as the world is sitting by, doing nothing. Dr. Nafis, brilliant anesthesiologist, he sent me a message. We are being slaughtered as the world is sitting idly watching it without lifting a hand. He meant the world's leaders, not you. That's their feeling. And if you believe, and how many health attacks has there been? Same report. Here you see the number of attacks on healthcare sector from October 8th and all the way up to the 14th. And you see in Gaza there has been 152 attacks on Palestinian healthcare during this period and 158 attacks in the West Bank. Because as everyone is concerned about Gaza, they are really trying to control the resistance in the West Bank. Now look at this number, 152 attacks on healthcare in 4 weeks. They have destroyed, 38 ambulances in Gaza, 129 in the West Bank. And even more importantly, they have killed 198 healthcare workers. So 152 attacks in Gaza, 158 attacks on healthcare in the West Bank, know your numbers, and they have killed now more than 200 Palestinian health workers in Gaza. They've killed at least 35 doctors, they've killed 68 nurses, they've killed 20 paramedics, they've killed 26 pharmacists, and they have killed 14 lab staff. You want me to stay here, or I can be here, like that? Okay. So these are the numbers. And these are humans. They are not numbers. I think we need some brave young man to come here. Or brave young woman, even better. Are you coming to be a supportive person here? That's great, thank you. And we'll try to fix it. It's blowing down. No, it's, I think, on this side. And I'll tell you, I'm getting towards the end. No, I'm not. But I will tell you the story on one of these 200 killed health workers in Gaza. And yeah, it's been a mass killing. This poster is 183 pictures of 183 doctors and nurses and pharmacists and other healthcare providers that have been killed. I have lost one of my best friends, and that was Maysara. I want to share with you the memory of Maysara al-Rayes from Gaza. A brilliant medical student. I taught him for 4 or 5 years when he was in medical school in Gaza. Comes from a Gaza family, extremely well educated, very polite, very soft-spoken, smiling, always precise on time, always a good co-worker, whatever we did. He went to the UK, got scholarship, did his master's with, top rank characters, came back and was about to finish his specialization as a pediatrician. I have been following these medical students through years and years, and we've had lots of projects. We did research together. This is Maysara al-Rayes. He had 2 brothers. He had a father and a mother and 2 sisters, one of them with 3 kids. He was the leader of the Palestinian branch in Gaza of IFMSA, which is the International Federation of Medical Students. He was a brilliant leader. And we did research, and we did a fantastic project where we trained medical students in Gaza to be instructors in life-saving first aid, and then they would go to the villages, to the refugee camps, to the women's organizations, to the schools, and they would have a 3-hour training course, how to resuscitate, how to stop the bleeding, how to keep the airway open, how to keep the patient warm, and get them alive to the hospital. Fantastic project. And this is our very, very first training session, and Maysara is right there, and we are so proud. And there is Anas Ismail, who is now working in Geneva and who was Maysara's best friend. These are the other instructors, and we have just trained these young boys in vocational school. Maysara al-Rayes. So this is one of the papers we published together in the Lancet about how local medical students can be good instructors. So it's Anas, let me see, sorry, it's Anas Ismail, it's Al Maisara, and some few others, and I am the last author. Fantastic people. Under siege, bombardment, poverty, hunger, they do their medical training and they become doctors, full-fledged. Maisara was going to bed. It was the 11th of November, with his parents and his sisters and the 3 small kids, and the Israelis bombed their home. All 8 were killed. Unarmed civilians, not an arm in sight, nothing in sight. Just plain, decent humans like you and me. Plain, decent humans surviving poverty, occupation, and humiliation, years after years. Killed in their own home. 2 of his brothers were out to find bread for the family. Maisara, my dear friend, is one of these 200 healthcare workers who so far have been killed by the Israeli war machine without having even a mention, in mainstream media. The next morning, his 2 brothers had decided to try to dig in the rubble because they were longing for a hope that they could have been alive, at least one of them. And all the big rescue machinery cannot be used in Gaza now because of lack of fuel. So they were digging with their hands together with a rescue worker who came. Lots of solidarity in Gaza. And the Israeli war machine came back and killed all 3 of them. So I got this message from Anas. He said the day after, they just killed his 2 brothers who were trying to get the bodies from under the rubble. I was in Amman. I was preparing for the lecture I had there. It was 3 o'clock, and I just collapsed. I mean, what could we do? And Anas and Wasim, who is working in Gaza, part of this group of ours, we just cried and cried. And then I got this video. I want to look closely at this video because these are the 2 brothers that were trying to find their 8 family members in Gaza, or maybe even rescue. This is just after the bombing.
يا الله يا الله حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل. ايش هذا؟ استهداف ولا ايش؟ يلا يا الله هات سيارات هات سيارات شباب اللي بتشتغل يا الله يا الله اصبر جيب سيارة. في معك سيارات اسعاف؟
This is
معك
one
سيارات؟
survivor, a journalist.
استهدفوك بشكل مباشر؟ حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل. لحق اهله.
This is
لحق اهله.
Muhammad
هو الوحيد ضايل لاهله والله.
Moyad
هو الوحيد ضايل لاهله.
al-Rayis.
هو الرئيس صح؟ الوحيد ضايل لاهله. في سيارة
محمد
طيب راح يجيب هذا.
al-Moyad.
يا الله يا الله والله لحق اهله وهم الوحيدين ضايلين لاهلهم اقسم بالله. لحقوا اهلهم. حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل.
12,000 killed and missing. 12,000 human beings. 12,000 daughters and sisters, brothers and mothers. 12,000 friends, decent people who just wanted to live their decent life in peace and with a goal in life to help others, killed. And it seems like nobody cares in the global north, in Europe, and in the United States. This is a historical evil that will be standing in human history for centuries. And I tell you, my friends, this is an attack on every one of us, because what the Israelis are doing in Gaza is to step on humankind's most precious value, and that is that we can disagree, we can fight, but I respect you and you respect me. I'm not going to kill you. The Israelis are killing with a brutality and an evil and a sadism that is, to me, even if I've been under their bombing for my 40 years, it is almost so that I don't believe it. To come back and kill people who are trying to find their family, none of these were politically active. And if they were, I don't care. You don't have the right to kill them. Can I kill my conservative parliament member in Tromsø because I don't like the political position they have? Of course I cannot. Israel is actually introducing a new era of colonialism and apartheid, which is worse than what we have seen before. And it will be extremely serious for all of us and our children, our grandchildren, if they get away with this. If they win, if they get away with this, if they're not taken to the ICC, the International Criminal Court, if Biden is not taken to the International Criminal Court, we are all losing. That's why we need to do something. That's why we need to do something. And the last point is that they're also killing like maniacs in the West Bank. This came actually yesterday. It's a crisis. It's a sort of a red alert report from OCHA, UN. And it is the Israeli forces' recurrent operations in the West Bank, special focus, northern West Bank. They go into Jenin, Tulkarem, all the refugee camps in the North Bank, under the shadow or the smoke screen of what is happening in Gaza. I'm not going to bother you with many statistics, but look at this one. I got this yesterday. This is this full year, starts in January here. Killed adults, killed children. They kill children all the time. And then from October, November, look at these numbers. Look at these numbers. It's a killing machine. It's an occupational, colonial killing machine. Does not say, does not make any distinction between man and woman, civilian and resistance fighter, children, whatever. They kill, and kill. And they attack healthcare in the West Bank. There has been 170 attacks on Palestinian healthcare in the West Bank since the 7th of October. 139 ambulances, and look at this list of attacks, obstructing people, women in labor not allowed to pass the checkpoints, ambulances with sick people stopped, physical violence to the health teams, detention without any crimes, so health staff and ambulances, and searches in the hospitals. And yesterday they were bombing the hospital in Tulkarem with tear gas, so patients were suffocating inside because the whole hospital was filled with tear gas. As we are speaking, nothing happens. Mainstream media, Shifa, Hamas. You all need to be critical now. You all need to write to the editors of the journals that you read and say, I want the truth. To demand documentation of every one of their claims that this and that is done by the Palestinians. To demand that they provide journalism that is true, fact-based, and according to the reality. And if they do that, everyone will see what is going on. Everyone will see what's going on. So, all the political leaders and governments, they know about the Israeli war crimes. It's reported, it's researched, documented. So why is it still going on? And why on earth is this happening in 2023? Well, I think there is one important reason, and that is the Israeli impunity. They have never, ever been held accountable for their crimes. Be it, the blatant apartheid regime, be it the attacks on healthcare, be it the bombardments of Gaza, be it the thousands of hostages that they keep with the prisoners, Palestinian prisoners, be it the siege and the collective punishment of Gaza. Never, ever. It's like you had a pit bull. You had a pit bull. You had a neighbor with a pit bull, and that neighbor bred that pit bull to attack as much as a pit bull can. And then he fed it with blood. And then that pit bull contracted rabies, and it went loose in the neighborhood. And you, the pit bull owner, the United States, was going to try to say, no, 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 people don't do that. The United States, the truth is that the United States has lost completely control with Israel now. And they are shit scared. They are shit scared because they see that their trust in the global south, in Africa, in Arabia, in Asia, in South America, is completely gone now. Nobody trusts the United States anymore, and fewer are also trusting the European leaders. So this is a massive political crisis, and it's too late for the United States to recall Israel, even if they want it. I'm not sure if they want. I think they are happy with the killing. You need some cases to prove. I'm going to end now. Yeah, wait, I'm going to show this again. The Palestinians never give up. They don't have electricity, they have burns, kids with burns, they need pain relief, they don't have pain relief. What do they do? What do they do? In Al-Aqsa, this is my friend Khalil. What do? They ask mother, can you fan your daughter with burns? And she says, of course I can fan my daughter with burns. And this film I got from my very good friend, Dr. Khalil. Is extremely innovative. And
مبسوطة؟ تمام؟ منسكحة أحسن؟ والصحافة قاعدة بتساعد.
Gaza, November 2023. A burned child being pain relieved by her mother who's fanning her. She should have had clean water, dressings, pain relief, surgery, skin transplants, everything that a child in Israel would have had. Or in Norway. What is this? It's medical apartheid. It is the most brutal form of apartheid. This child, because she's Palestinian, will not have access to modern treatment. This man with cancer, he will not have access to cancer care. This woman with breast cancer will not have access to radiation therapy in Gaza. What's the result? 5 years survival probability for women with cancer in Gaza is 62%. In my country, 98%. Almost all women survive breast cancer today because of chemo, surgery, and radiation. Do you think there is radiation in Gaza? Never was. Never was. They didn't allow it. 2.2 million people without access to just standard modern cancer treatment. So the Palestinians decided to take all cancer treatment to the Turkish hospital. I've been working on that for the last 3 years. Beautiful hospital, was empty, given by the Turkish people. That became the cancer center, and we got funding from the World Bank, from the Norwegian government, and from the Islamic Investment Bank. So we had the money we needed to establish 2 radiation units in Turkish hospital. We were going to put the spade in the earth and start digging in November. What do the Israelis do? They bombed the hospital with, I think it was 70 cancer patients inside. And Dr. Sobiskeik, the bald man that I showed you, who's the leader, nobody was killed, but 4 of these cancer patients died within the next 2 days because they could no longer have their chemotherapy because the hospital had to be evacuated. Bombing cancer hospitals? And then they bombed the Rantisi Pediatric Cancer Hospital, bombing Children's Cancer Hospital. And that's, by the way, is funded with American money.
كان حامل راية بيضاء يا جماعة الخير، هذا كان راح حامل راية بيضاء، هيو شهيد، ولد صغير كان حامل راية بيضاء، حاليا هو شهيد. وهنا كمان مصاب كان حامل راية بيضاء وهو مصاب واصابته خطرة جدا. انا حاليا قاعد بصور لكم هذا الفيديو وانا حاليا اصلا كمان في خطر كبير. الوضع عندنا كثير صعب يا جماعة الخير. حاليا بتم قصف في محيط المستشفى. الناس حاملة رايات بيض بتحاول تطلع، الناس حاملة رايات بيض، الناس بتمشي خوفا. الطلقات الاقتناص يحدث للجميع. الناس قاعدة بتحاول تطلع من المكان والوضع حاليا صعب جدا.
This is outside Shifa Hospital, 14th, when they were actually forced to leave, and they were shot as they tried to leave by the Israeli occupation forces. And then, of course, we had heard what happened, and then they entered the hospital. Shameful enough, BBC allowed themselves to embed a journalist with the occupation soldiers when they went into Shifa. I was called twice, 3 times yesterday by BBC to give interviews, and I said, I'm not going to talk to you as long as you let your journalists go into Israel, into Palestine, into Palestinian hospitals with the occupation army soldiers harassing the patients and the staff and the refugees. Because this British journalist who went into Shifa with the Israeli soldiers, she was not allowed to talk to any Palestinians. And that's called embedment, and that is done by BBC. Shame on BBC. Shame on the colonial journals and journalists and television companies who are allowing themselves to be embedded. Last little case, this boy was born on the day that this movie was filmed by my friend, my Dr. Khalil, and he had his birthday on the 4th of November, documented on his shirt. But he was almost burned to death by the Israeli bombing of his refugee camp. So instead of blowing out his birthday cake candles, he is almost burned to death by the occupation. So this is the reality for our friends, brothers and sisters in Gaza. It's a mass murder, cynically planned. This is not an earthquake. This is not a natural disaster. All of this is planned and executed with great precision by the Israeli occupation army. The Israeli generals, they say 90% of our missiles hit the intended target. They said that in 2009 and repeated it in 2014. So you can do your math. Subtract 10% from 12,000. 1,200, and the rest was intended. The rest was intended. I'll move now because I see you're tired and you're exhausted, and I'm taxing your account of empathy. I can see that. I understand. I get very angry. But would you allow me to just finish with the Sumud of Gaza? Can I do that? Can you take 5 minutes more, please? Please? Because we need to help each other to lift our hearts, to lift our hope, to lift our energy, and do exactly what my friends in the shack dwellers movement, I love you. You will go to Gaza and build up all the apartment buildings that have been bombed, and you will share your energy with the bombed people of Gaza. And we will learn from Zainab, and we will write beautiful books and beautiful poems, and we will paint beautiful pictures, and all of us will do beautiful things. Because they are rebuilding again and again. The last 15 years, the Israeli occupation army has destroyed almost 13,000 residential units, and they have damaged 42,000. Total, more than 54,000 homes, apartments, apartment buildings, beautiful homes, 55,000. And now they've done the same again, much greater numbers, but they've done it. So look at this, my friends. You remember the attack in 2020? This is the bombing of the Bahada Street. Horrible bombing, we see the same now, just much worse. And then this is again 2020. You see this bombed house in the middle of the main street of Gaza. And then, 3 years later, it is rebuilt. It is rebuilt by people who are besieged. They don't have building material. They barely have food. They build it up again. Come on. What is our promise tonight? What is our promise tonight? We will rebuild Gaza. We will rebuild Gaza. It's not going down. It's not going down. And we will collect money, and we will collect material, and we will go there, and we will rebuild Gaza. There is no doubt that we will rebuild Gaza. What happened now? Is it Mossad again? Shit, they get into my machine. You know Mossad? They are everywhere. They are everywhere. Ish malak ya bibi, ish malak. Okay, bear with me. They do this many times. As long as they don't get into my brain, I'm happy. Huh? Alhamdulillah, yeah. So, yeah, this was that, and this was there, and now we're there, and I don't know what happened. The machine was tired, I think. So, this was 2020. And this, of course, in this building, our beloved Dr. Ayman Abu El-Kud, he died. He was killed with his family. But the point is that 3 years later, they have rebuilt the house. And he was an extremely beloved teacher at Al-Azhar University, and it was a great loss. Another building. This, again, 2020, 3 years later, rebuilt. And also beautiful art. This is wall painting in Gaza. Look at that. Look at the beauty. We pledge to rebuild Gaza. We will rebuild Gaza. Building by building, hospital by hospital. We will go there, brothers in arms, 2 doctors, and we will carry the mud and raise up the building together with them. The psychiatric hospital, the pediatric hospital, the cancer hospital, and they will never be able to erase Palestinian healthcare. I swear to God. I swear to God. And remember, solidarity is not an act of charity. It's an act of unity between people fighting on different grounds towards the same goal. Equality, respect, humanity, and solidarity. Now, the end, the brave children of Gaza. The brave children of Gaza. When I go to the beach with my parents, I like walking the bird. I like watching the birds, and I imagine that my wings will help me to escape from this oh so sad place, says Maria, 10 years, as she's playing in the sands of the beautiful beaches of Gaza. So the Gaza Sumud is extremely profound. It's anchored in everyone. And I will tell you the story of 4 beautiful souls in Gaza that I met in 2009. Cast lead, they killed almost 1,400 and they killed 318 children. Nobody held accountable. So then I met Samar, Amal, Abdallah, and Jumana. These 4 kids were all deeply affected by what happened in January 2009. Amal and Abdallah and Jumana, they were part of the Zaytun massacre. A large clan in Zaytun were seeking shelter in a big warehouse because the Israeli army had then come all the way to Zaytun during the ground invasion. So they went into this big warehouse and they stayed for 2-3 days, and on the 3rd day, the father of one of the families, he went out with a white flag and his son by the hand, and he shouted in Hebrew to the Israeli soldiers, "Please let us out. We are only civilians, children and women and some men, and we need water and we need food." They shot him in the head. He died on the spot, and they shot the 5-year-old son with 2 shots in the chest. Did not allow any medical help, so he bled to death. Of course, everyone inside was shit scared. Then the Israeli airplane came and it bombed. They bombed the whole warehouse full of people. 48 were killed inside that warehouse. You see it there. And of course, many of them children. This is some of the Al-Samuni children who were killed. All of these were from the Al-Samuni family. Jumana lost her father, while Amal and Abdallah lost their father and their little brother. So, 3 of them came to Shifa. Amal to the left, Samar in the middle, and Jumana to the right. Amal was unconscious. She was found by her brother because for the 3 first days after the bombing of that warehouse, the Israeli army did not allow any rescue people to come to the house, to the bombed house, and rescue those who had survived. So her brother finally got there, dug her out, and Amal came to Shifa, and she was unconscious. She was ice cold and dehydrated. I thought we were going to lose her. I've taken all of these pictures myself. We managed to rehydrate her, to give her fluid IV, warm her up. Her kidneys managed also well. There was a little wound in the scalp. We didn't examine that much more. It seemed to be superficial. Samar was very quiet. She came from Abd Rabu, a small village in the north of Gaza. And she only whispered, "Mama, mama, mama." I was called to her assistance to give her anesthesia because we were going to examine her. Jumana had a smashed left hand. This is after we finished the surgery on her. So, Amal was the one who lost her father and the small brother, her brave father who tried to stop them and asked for water and opening. This is her brother who found her, Abdullah, in the rubble. And as I said, I thought Amal would die between her hands. And I tell you, I have 2 children myself, 2 daughters, 4 grandchildren. And you have to be extremely focused when you work with these wounded children. Children are the worst because you really, I mean, all of us want to protect the children. And you have to be so concentrated that you don't hear anything, you don't smell anything, you're just focused on the work intensely. So I was extremely scared that she would die, but she didn't. Samar came from Abdarabu, and I wondered why she was so quiet. Why is she so quiet? And I tried to talk to her, and she only said, "Mama, mama." I asked the paramedics what happened. Well, there was an Israeli tank. It was very scary. They were shooting at everything, and we barely managed to evacuate her. So we took her to the emergency room, and then we understood why she was so quiet, because she had a very bad injury. Jumana, left hand, you see, it's completely smashed. We had to amputate almost the whole hand, and here I'm holding her airway open to let her wake up from anesthesia. So it was a head injury, it was a spinal injury, and here you can see the injury of Samar. She was shot in the back by the Israeli occupation forces, and there is a big open wound, and we could see the spinal cord. She had no feeling and no motion below the nipples. She was shot in the back. I thought it was a shrapnel injury. I couldn't believe any soldier would shoot a child in the back, but it turned out that was what had happened. And Jumana, her left hand, you can see this big wound. We took her to the OR immediately, tried to rescue her spinal cord. It was impossible. It was impossible. So Samar was 4 years. The Israelis came with a tank, shouted on a loudspeaker, "Get out of the house." Her father and her 3 siblings came out, and the grandmother and the mother, and one Israeli soldier jumped down from the tank, picked up his M16 rifle, and started to shoot them one by one on the doorsteps. And they killed her 2 siblings. One was killed on the spot. The other one bled to death because they did not allow any ambulances. And Samar came to us with this horrible injury in the back, all done on purpose. And BBC made a report on this one, and Samar's father, Khaled, told BBC that the other soldiers were sitting on the tank, eating chips and laughing as this other soldier were killing and shooting down the kids as if they were, you know, sort of a rabbit hunting. And I fear that this is what is going on now. So that's the wound that Samar had, and she is paralyzed for life. But we had equipment, we had the chest tubes, we had light, we had water, we could operate her, we could do decent surgery. That's not possible in these days. So, Samar woke up at midnight, Jumana woke up at midnight, both of them whispering for their mothers, and both of them giving me exactly that glance. And that glance, those eyes have followed me ever since. And they are telling me 2 things in my fantasy. Why did this happen? How could this happen? Number 1. And number 2, what are you going to do about this? And I think we have to understand it's all very well what we feel about it, but what are you going to do about it? That's the critical question we have to ask ourselves, every one of us. We have lots of feelings. We feel sad, we feel angry, we feel helpless, but that's not doing any good to the Palestinians. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Samar was evacuated to El Arish and flown to Bristol. I met her there later. She had become a beautiful little girl, of course in a wheelchair because she's paralyzed from the nipples and down. Her father, Khaled, nice farmer from Gaza, now a refugee in Belgium, working as a janitor. The family is extremely poor, but of course with great hospitality. And Samar is the sort of deputy mama. So she takes care of her siblings. She does extremely well in school. We spoke French together. I speak French. And she was laughing because she said, Dr. Mats, your accent is quite funny. And she got a kitten from her teacher because she was the best in her class. Samar is also our responsibility. We can't get away from these children. They are part of the responsibility that we have. And I went back to see her again later when she had grown up, and she has become a beautiful young girl. This is in a festival in Ostende in Belgium where she gave a beautiful speech about Gaza. Her family, poor, but they managed. They have the Sumud. Her uncle is living in Oslo. We communicate often, and I talk with Samar, and she's doing quite well. And last year, she was able to travel to Gaza and see the shores and the sea of her homeland. And she was extremely happy, despite that she's still in her wheelchair, because the Israeli apartheid army shot her in the back and killed her 2 siblings, and nobody has ever been held accountable. And that's why this keeps going on and on and on and on, because the political pit bull, the killer pit bull, is loose and is not stopped by anybody. Jumana, with a hand, her father was killed. Her mother, Maisa, covered her with her own body and saved her life. I met them again in the fall of 2009, and Maisa, very depressed, 18-year-old widow with a baby without 3 of the fingers. And she asked me, Dr. Mats, can you take her to Norway and you can do some transplantation? And we couldn't. So we had to disappoint her, but I have followed Jumana through all these years. I visit her every time I am in Gaza. And she has grown, like Samar, to a beautiful young girl, surrounded by the love of her mother and her grandmother and her grandfather, within her culture, within her faith, within her language, within the smell of the good Palestinian food, and within the solidarity of her community. I am only an outsider, but I lend my shoulder to her, and she lends her shoulder to me, and we encourage each other. She managed extremely well in school. She's a little bit shy about her left hand, but she's managing well, and this is her network. This is her lifesaver. This is her surviving strategy. It is the family, it is the faith, it is Palestine. It's not a psychologist from Norway. It's not a well-willing solidarity worker from Norway. It's everything that is in Gaza and is in the culture of the Palestinian people. That's what makes Samar, Amal, Abdallah, and Jumana survive. Amal and Abdallah, the 2 siblings, twins, they lost their father because he was the one who waved the flag and tried to get them out. So he was killed. Abdallah survived, but he had pain in his ass, as I said. And Jumana told me in this visit that she had still nosebleed, she had pain in the ear, and she had horrible headache. So I said, we have to go to the hospital and take a CT scan of you. Every time I meet them, the whole family gathers, and we have lots of fun, and we're blowing soap bubbles and drinking tea and coffee. And there they have got Arab translation of my first book, which is called Ice in Gaza, and they are so eager to read it. When we took her to CT, it turned out that we had done a pretty bad job. She had a big shrapnel in her right hemisphere, an Israeli shrapnel from the attack, and she also had a big metal fragment in her left hemisphere, this one, and both of these 2 metal fragments are located so that not even the best neurosurgeons can remove them. She has to live with these two greetings from the Israeli army, and that's why she has headache and nosebleed, but she does well. She does well, she managed. and she has married, and she has gotten 2 beautiful children. Abdullah was right. He had a reason for not doing his homework, because he said, if I sit in my room and do my homework, you know, I tell you, Dr. Mats, it is so painful in my ass. You don't, and my mother doesn't believe me. So we took him also to the hospital and x-rayed him. And then we found a bullet. He had an Israeli bullet in his natas. And we took it out. And Abdullah said, you know, I was right. Mother was wrong. I had a bullet. I had a bullet in my ass. And he was very happy to take it out. And they grew up. Amal here 18, and she's been engaged. And this is in 2023, when I went there to have tea. Amal, a beautiful young mother, extremely scared for new attacks. This was in June this year. And now they have been under bombardment and horror for 5 weeks. And I cannot understand how they survive, but they do. And I hope, inshallah, and I pray to all gods that they are alive. I haven't heard from them, and I don't know. And the picture of their brave father who sacrificed his life and the son that they killed is, of course, always hanging in their living room. So, Amal growing up through hardship, but with this beautiful smile, and with her compassion, and with her humanity, and with her faith, and with her extremely warm communication. She is one of my closest friends. She is part of my heart, and she has taught me what it means to be a human being. And she and her family and the other Palestinians have taught me that hardship can make you grow, that hardship can be a growth factor, that hardship can be survived if you believe, if you have the family, and if you have a greater goal than only yourself. Palestine, Palestine. And they deserve an applause, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm speaking tonight, my friends, with a low voice, because I don't need to shout, because this is the reality today. These people want to be free, just like us. They just want to have peace. They just want to live a safe life with their children. And the Palestinians have offered their occupiers hudna. You know hudna? Long-lasting peace without having settled the problem from Islam, from the Quran. Hudna is a brilliant construction. You can say, we will never agree about this apple tree. This apple tree in my garden, you want to cut it down? I want to keep it? You want to fight? No, let's have a hudna. We leave that conflict for 50 years, and then we take a new discussion. Palestinians, all the fractions have offered hudna to the Israelis. Let's have peace for 30 years, and then we find out. Stop the killing. Rejected, always rejected. And they are the ones who pay the price. These beautiful, strong, and occupied, bombed, killed, oppressed people in Gaza. This is the Sumud of Gaza. This is the people that we are fighting for. These are the good people of Gaza who deserve to live just as good as we do. And we have to multiply our efforts to stop this madness, to stop this killing, to stop this occupation. And one day, inshallah, I know that their plea for freedom will come true, and there will be another reality. But this is needed from you, and one day there will be a free Palestine, inshallah, and shukran jasilan, kulu nagasa, and we will be active and do something. Kulu nagasa, free Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Meds. I think most of us are left speechless after the extremely sad, emotional, but effective talk. Dr. Mads Gilbert, your profound wisdom, passion, and dedication to humanity has left an indelible mark on us tonight. We are profoundly grateful to you for sharing your experiences tonight, and we pray that you continue with your tireless commitment towards the Palestinian people. As a future doctor myself, you are truly an inspiration and define what it is to be a physician and humanitarian. Thank you, Dr. Mads. Ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you we're reaching the end. I'd just like to call upon Inayat once again, who has a few announcements and will elaborate on the funds and donations collected for this event.
Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure many of you have been inspired by Dr. Mads Gilbert, but together with listening to what Dr. Gilbert had to say, this is also linked to a fundraiser. So we'd like to remind people that there is a silent auction that is taking place, and also there is a request for volunteers for the social media campaign. Samnet in particular has been doing training for Twitter, etc., to challenge the Zionist narrative and the Zionist propaganda. And also with regard to the pledge forms that have been completed, if you could please drop the completed pledge forms at the entrance by the table. And this is just one event that is taking place tomorrow. That's Pansi, Apartheid Israel, United for Palestine. A whole host of organizations have come together in Durban, and that is taking place tomorrow, which is the 18th, Florida Road, proceeding to Jameson Park at 1:30 p.m., corner Montpelier and Gordon Road, Morningside, Durban. So we urge you to take part in this and once again display your solidarity for the people of Palestine. I'm going to be leaving you with the Honorable MC once again, just from our side at Salam Media. Once again, we'd like to thank you, and there's something very big coming, and it's still in the pipeline. Over the next few months, there is going to be a global action. We've got some global players who will be coming out to South Africa as well. So please take a look out, watch the space. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we reach the end of our program, I would like to call upon two very instrumental ladies who are involved, and without them, this event would not be a success. To conclude and deliver the vote of thanks, may Yasira Suleiman and Nadia Amir please come up. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's pouring, so I suggest you please just sit for a few more moments for us to just do a bit of thank yous to people who've worked very hard for this event. So on behalf of the supporting organizations, which is the South African Muslim Network, Islamic Medical Association, the People Against Oppression, as well as the Caring Sisters Network, I'd like to say a very hearty thank you to our guest, Dr. Mads Gilbert, as well as Brother Mandela, as well as Dr. William Kize for gracing us with their presence today. We also want to say thank you to Salam Media for organizing this national tour and for bringing a guest as distinguished as Dr. Mads Gilbert to us, to South Africa. You know, events of this nature take a lot of planning. We had very little time. So I'd just like to, it would be unbecoming of me not to give thanks to all those who helped put this together. And just to name the few supporting sponsors, we want to say thank you to NMJ for the use of the venue. I want to say thank you to all the NMJ helpers as well as the roof helpers who helped us put all the beautiful, we tried to create the border post in the entrance. I hope many of you made notice of that. I want to say thank you to our lifestyle and deco as well as Bob's Caterers for all the deco in the hall, and to our many vendors who've come on board like Copper Chimney as well as BB's Bakery and Takeaway and the Drop Donuts. I also want to say thank you to all our sponsors who have given us auction pieces. And Brother Inayat mentioned, and please, there were a lot of ladies who came through in the afternoon and they looked at the auction pieces, and we have some stunning pieces of jewelry there, kindly sponsored by Randri Jewelers, Vauda Goldham Jewelers, and Vauda Jewelers. Some absolutely stunning pieces, and the ladies looked at it and they said, we're coming back in the evening. Our hubbies are the ones with the wallets. So let me just say this way. It's a twofold auction for you men out here. Make the wife happy. There's some lovely pieces of jewelry out there. And inshallah, you'll be supporting our cause for fundraising, which is medical funds for Gaza. Lastly, but not leastly, and Nadia's going to say a few thank yous as well very quickly. We know an event like this takes a lot of planning, and as I said, we put it together very quickly. And Dr. Mads Gilbert mentioned, he said that Samora Michelle said that, my husband said that he can't read his own writing, and I can't as well. But he said something like, solidarity is not charity, and solidarity is unity. And I want to say, today and over the past week, I saw solidarity in our women in Durban come together for charity. I was going to save the round of applause for. So there's been 4 women's organizations that have come together. I head up the organization called the Caring Sisters Network, and because we were brought on board as the core organization, I've many times walked around in this past 40 days, and I've been bumping into everybody, either at the butcher shop or wherever, they say, but we're just sending out our messages for fundraising, and people are just EFTing. We need to get our hands dirty. We need to do something. So I thought, great, let's bring all the women together. So I want to say thank you to the women who came together to form the group, which we called Sisters for Gaza, and they are the Caring Sisters Network, all the teams. Caring Sisters Network, the Women's Cultural Group, the North Beach Women's Group, and the Beitul Noor volunteers and teams from those organizations. And I think they deserve a round of applause. So yes, the effort has been fundraising, as I mentioned, and as Brother Inayat mentioned, there's pledge boxes, there's pledge forms, there's donation boxes, there's beautiful pieces of art sponsored by a few artists of Durban, and please, we'd like you to have a look at them. They are silent auctions. Please pledge your support for Palestine. You know, I just want to make one special note before I call Nadia on, to say, you all have these bottles of water in your hands. We've got tons of water. We had, alhamdulillah, 2,000 bottles of water donated to us today. What do our brothers and sisters in Gaza have at the moment? This one bottle of water, less than that. So I ask you to please open your hearts, give for Palestine, and remember, in giving, it's not only for fundraising for our drive, which is at the moment medical drive, or the food, or the shelters. Like Dr. Mads Gilbert said, we need to rebuild Palestine. But in rebuilding Palestine, and I think Dr. Faisal Suleiman mentioned there, please, we ask you to support the fundraising drives for the people who are skilled for the solidarity, who are skilled to make the difference. We ask you to contact SAMNet for those of you that want to make the difference with social media. There's so many ways we can make a difference besides just fundraising for purposes like these, but making a difference with solidarity and with social media. I'm going to hand it over to Nadia now because she's got a few thank yous to also honor. And Jazakallah to each and every one of you, our guests. Some of you have left, some of them have left, but for being with us today. And please, as you're going out, there's still a bit of food left. Please support the fundraising initiative. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
I want to thank everybody that has come. I know that it's pouring outside. I don't want to keep you much longer. This presentation by Mads Gilbert has really inspired so many people, including Dr. Roseanne Simmons, and I'm going to leave her to close.
Thank you very much. I know it's really late. I'm a medical doctor. I've been on a number of missions with Gift of the Givers and other NGOs into Syria and Iraq and Jordan, Lebanon. So, and the cause of Palestine is very close to my heart. I have been into the West Bank, but not into Gaza. And I just felt that I've got a message that I would like to read out to the healthcare workers of Gaza in response to Dr. Mads Gilbert's talk and to what we've seen on the media. A message to the healthcare workers of Gaza. Dear colleagues, our hearts are broken and overwhelmed watching reel after reel of the catastrophe that is Gaza. We see you, doctors, nurses, and paramedics, surrounded by a sea of broken, bleeding bodies. Bodies that are not anonymous patients to you. They are your own, your precious family members, your friends, and your beloved colleagues. We see you, weak with hunger, weak with fatigue, weak with grief. We see the unfathomable chaos of a terrified, desperate people seeking treatment and shelter in your facilities. We see how these sacred, protected spaces have been violated and turned into battlegrounds and places of death. We see you being forced to make choices that no human was designed to make, impossible choices of who will receive treatment and who will not. We see how these decisions haunt you and how tormented you are by all the what-ifs. We see you, necessity requiring that you perform procedures that you do not necessarily do in normal times. And we acknowledge the deep angst and anxiety that this causes. In Gaza, there is no safe place. For you, there are no pauses. The carnage does not stop. There is no time for you to comfort the little dust-covered bodies, traumatized and shivering involuntarily, nor time for you to sit with the bereaved, let alone time for you to process your own pain and heartache. Please know that we see you, heroic healthcare workers, and we will not look away. We bear witness to the unthinkable conditions in which you find yourselves. We see the enormous sacrifices that you are making in order to serve your people. Know that we are praying for you to have wisdom in the difficult decisions that you have to make. We pray that your bodies, minds, souls, and spirits will be strengthened and enabled to perform the superhuman tasks that are being required of you. Our hearts are with you, and we are standing in solidarity with you. It is hard to imagine how alone and forsaken you must be feeling at this time. Please know that there are teams and teams of us ready and waiting to be allowed in. We will rush in to relieve you and to allow you to get some rest, to regroup and to reconnect with yourselves and your families. We will give you space to mourn the loss of your people, your homes, and communities. We will weep with you and offer comfort and compassion. Know that we are in awe of your bravery, your resilience, and your sumud. We are with you, fellow healthcare workers, in your pursuit of justice and peace. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. It was a pleasure having you. Travel safe. Until again, good night. Assalamu alaikum.